Good afternoon. I'm KHOU Meteorologist Chris Ramirez. We are starting off with mostly just pleasant conditions out there if you are heading out and about. It's feeling a little bit still like fall, but not as warm as summer. But warming trend will be continuing at least through the next few days. It's going to give us a summer-like weekend for Saturday and Sunday, and then we're tracking some possible rain chances for next week, all thanks to a weather system that's going to be moving in from the west. So live look right now, mostly calm. We're having a few clouds moving in from the coast. Bush Airport at 80 degrees, Brenham at 81, Tomball 82, Pearland at 79 degrees. As we look at that temperature outlook for the end of our month, we are expecting a warmer than normal outlook. This is from the Climate Prediction Center. So this is kind of giving us a hint of what we could see during Thanksgiving Day here across Houston. I think it's still too early to tell what exactly is going to take place. But on the flip side, we are looking at the rainfall outlook. They're calling for wetter than normal conditions. And that really could mean that we could still see some of these weather systems that are moving in from the west really bring us some possible showers and storms with them. We can't really leave out the possibility of these systems having a severe component with it because we are in a seasonal change here across the northern hemisphere. And usually here across the U.S. during those seasonal changes, we have a little bit of a severe weather season. We usually see it during the spring and then in the fall season as well, which is why things start changing in terms of the temperatures as well as that rain chance. So right now, however, we have a high pressure system over the northern Gulf. That really is just keeping things mostly quiet and clear across a large part of the country. But if you look off towards the west, you're seeing this low pressure system moving in over Southern California. 9 times out of 10, we usually see these systems move directly towards Texas. However, this high, as long as that high is there, that low pressure system is going to be avoiding that. And that's really the cause of those showers across Southern California from Los Angeles, even off towards San Francisco, even Las Vegas looking at some rain currently right now as they're dealing with that increasing moisture from that low pressure system just spinning off the coast. So as we look at the big picture here, we have that system number one that's currently bringing rain to California. You have another system that's off the coast of Canada, and then another one that's really just off the tail end of the Aleutian Islands. But as we look at the systems, they usually follow that jet stream into the U.S. and really, as long as that high is there, like I said, those low pressure systems really just avoid that high pressure system. So it's going to keep us mostly quiet for this week and into the start of next week. So a very clear and sunny Saturday and Sunday. The thing to note here is that when you have a high over the Gulf, it really brings in a lot of moisture across our area. So therefore, the increasing humidity is once again going to be in the picture for us as we head into this next week. I'm going to go ahead and back this up here as we look at the next couple of days. This is all next week. Looks like their graphic has updated. And so now as we look at this low that's going to be moving in around Wednesday and Thursday, there is a possibility that this could bring some showers and storms with it. And so we're going to have to really pay attention to the severe weather risk with this as we head into next week. However, there's a lot of uncertainty regarding our two main weather models that we use to forecast the long-term forecast, the GFS and the European model. GFS is showing that this is going to be moving in maybe on Friday at last check, and then the European model is showing that this is going to be moving in on Thursday, like you see right here. So what we do know is that when it comes to a seasonal change, we usually have some discrepancies with the weather models. And so there is still a degree of uncertainty with this system next week because we thought that it was going to arrive this weekend. Of course, this weekend is sunny. And so we're just going to have to keep an eye on those trends. But I think for the most part, we are in due time for our next weather system to move through, especially as we haven't really received rain in quite some time. So Thursday, Friday, could look a little bit stormy, and we're going to have to watch the severe weather risks for those days as well for the end of next week, and then we're going to be clearing to mostly dry conditions. And so, like I said, when we have that high across the Gulf, that really brings a lot of moisture our way, and that's really just going to increase the humidity through the weekend, eventually warming up our temperatures. So we're going to see those high temps be at or near record temperatures as we head into the weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and show you here what we're expected to see in terms of our high temperatures versus the record highs here across the Houston area. So Friday, which is today, we have a high of 84. That's the forecast high. Then Saturday, we have a high of 84 as well. I think we're going to see maybe 85-degree temperature for Saturday. However, Sunday, we're going to continue to warm up to 86 degrees. When you look at those record highs for Friday and Saturday, they're in the upper 80s. There's a good possibility that we might hit that. It's very easily we could hit maybe upper 80s in some locations, especially if some of those areas get a little bit more sunshine. However, Sunday, 86 degrees, record is 84. That could really be breaking the high temperature record for Sunday at Houston's Bush Intercontinental Airport. So just this warming trend is going to be at play. And I think that if you are out and about during those afternoon hours, it's not going to be jacket weather. I know we want to sport our fall attire and, like myself, want to go shopping for fall, Christmas clothes, but it's really just not going to feel like that as we head into the next 2 to 3 days, especially for this weekend. And so, like I said, increasing moisture. This weekend's looking mostly dry and sunny with a little bit more muggy conditions. So if you are heading out to those outdoor activities, we have a lot going on this weekend here across Houston. The good news is that it's not going to have any rain associated with it, but we will be a little bit warm, and I think you're going to be able to get away with just wearing a shirt, shorts, or some, thin pants or whatever you would wear probably during the summer months here across the Houston area, because we are expecting those temps to warm on up into the 80s. We do need the rain, and the reason being is because we are seeing increasing drought conditions in place across much of our area. This is looking closer towards the Houston area, looking mostly at Montgomery County, Trinity County, seeing increasing drought, especially out towards Liberty, even Montgomery County, Grimes County, even Fort Bend County. So most of that severe drought is surrounding Harris County. This is not too much of a concern right now. We are not in the situation where we're going to have to deal with the water restrictions. However, you just have to really just keep an eye that our vegetation is pretty dry, and we are in 1 foot deficit of rainfall that we usually see for this time of year. So we are in much need of rain, and usually when we have these drought conditions during the fall months, it really just kind of, it ends up carrying over into the next year in terms of the growing season, when we have those plants and those different vegetation that we usually have here across Southeast Texas. That could play a role at that as well. But for the most part, like I said, rain is much needed. We are not saturated at all. Those overnight and morning temperatures are going to be in the 60s and 70s, and that really is just kind of just showing you that we're not going to really need those jackets, and it's not going to be fall-like, at least through Monday and Tuesday of next week. Of course, you see some cooler temperatures for Thursday and Friday, but again, take those like a grain of salt, because that system, a little bit uncertain with terms of how intense it could be, especially if we are getting a Pacific cold front, which is a cold front that comes directly from the west instead of from the north, like we saw this past week or so. So as far as your 7-day forecast, once again, we are expecting that warming trend through the weekend. We are not expecting any conditions that's going to be, summer-like hot, where it's going to be feeling like 90 degrees with the feels like temps in the hundreds like we saw back in July and August, but it's going to be a bit warm and definitely not feel like fall, especially during those afternoon hours for Sunday and into Monday. However, Tuesday we could start seeing some showers move on in, especially increasing by Wednesday and Thursday of next week. So something to keep an eye on in the coming days is that we are expecting a dry stretch, at least to the start of next week, but we are tracking that system that could potentially bring some possible strong storms with it as we head into Thursday and potentially into Friday of next week. That timing, we're still not quite on that yet in terms of when the heaviest rainfall could come through, but we are going to get more of a better picture as we progress through the weekend, especially when it comes to that situation for Wednesday and Thursday. And of course, there's your forecast, there's your weekend forecast, and definitely have a safe weekend out there if you're going to any of the festivities across Houston and across Southeast Texas. Definitely stay hydrated as well if you are spending time outdoors, because we're going to see sunny conditions as well as those muggy conditions. So thank you for watching our extended forecast on KHOU 11 Plus. I'm meteorologist Chris Ramirez with the KHOU 11 weather team. Have a great rest of your day.